Coming up next, I'm going to talk to you about bracing for disappointment, and on this Veterans Day, some career tips for you veterans. We'll take your calls and your chats, and it all starts right now. I am coming to you live from our Ramsey Solutions studios in Nashville, and you are joining a conversation about who you are, what you were created to do, where you can do it, and how you can get there. That little description there is the journey to significance. Understanding, first and foremost, that you were created to fill a unique role in this world through your work. That means you are needed, and it means you must do it because somebody out there actually needs you to show up day in and day out, week in and week out, year in and year out, and be the best version of you. When you start thinking about living and working on purpose, being about others and not about what you get out of this life, but what you give, it is an absolute perspective changer. Changes everything. And so that's what we talk about here on this show. We talk about you and your gifts, your 3 gifts that you were given by the Creator, your talent, it's what you do best. Your passion, which is work you love to do. It's just the work itself you love. Whether anybody sees it or you get paid for it, you just love the work. And then your mission, the results that you want to produce because they make your heart come alive. Talent, passion, mission. It's like a straight line. You use what you do best, talent, to do work you love, passion, to produce results that matter deeply to you, mission. Folks, that's a straight line with an arrow at the end of it pointing out into the marketplace where there are multiple jobs and career paths that will allow you to be in that sweet spot. It's pointing towards the sweet spot, the contribution zone, if you will, to where you love what you do and what you produce. And people marvel at you and say, wow, you were born for that. So no matter where you are, whether you don't know what it is, you do know what it is, but you're afraid to get after it, or you've got some doubts, or you do know what it is, you don't have the fear and doubt, but you're just not quite sure what is the best path. If you're in those buckets, welcome to the human race. I've been there. I'm your guide. You have the answers. It's my job to pull them out of you. So let's do this worthy conversation, shall we? 844-747-2577. That's the phone number. You can call right now. Now, if you're watching at 12:03 Eastern Standard Time, I'm live. If you're watching any other time, you got me on demand. But for those of you watching live, you can call in right now. We have a couple phone lines still open. Madison is standing by. She's the best call screener in the world. She knows what she's doing. If you're nervous, she'll get you ready to go. She'll even word your question for you. She's that good. And I'm here for you because today may be the day that you get the clarity, the breakthrough that you need. Maybe you feel like you know what it is and you just want to bounce it off of me as a sounding board. I'm your guy. 844-747-2577. You can also submit your question via the chat room right next to the video window. We try to get to 2 or 3 of those every show. So you can fire those away right now. The team will get them to me. But first, I want to talk about something that we all deal with. Disappointment. Oh gosh, disappointment is just something that we all cringe about when we think about it. Like, oh, I don't want to face another disappointment. I know I'm going to face them. I don't know necessarily when. But when we put ourselves out there in love, we put ourselves out there in work, to move forward on anything, whether relationally or professionally, we put ourselves out there to make progress. We all know that disappointment is lurking. And yet, we need not worry about it. So I want to go through a couple thoughts here. Got some research for you. Now, I'm a guy that normally says that worry is a waste of time. But I saw a different take on this by a guy by the name of Art Mark when he's a professor of psychology at the University of Texas. And he's the author of Bring Your Brain to Work. And he says, if you want to succeed and you worry you might fail, the gap between those realities creates motivation to take action. The only thing I would say is I agree it can, but we have to decide if the gap between the two makes us lock up and not want to engage, or makes us saddle up and get into it. Now, that's the only tweak I'd make to what he's saying there, but I think he is effectively right. So the idea is, can you take worrying and turn it into action? In that situation, worrying can lead to something positive. I just want to point that out. The idea is you begin to get aggressive because you don't want to experience the disappointment, so it fires you up. That is the ideal way to deal with it. But just a couple other things here. When I start to get worried about disappointment, I think there's two things that I do, just from my experience. Number one, I think it's really important to think through the worst case scenario. I've done this on this program many times, where if somebody's called up and I realize that they're fearful, I ask them to identify specifically what they're afraid of, and then we put it on the witness stand, fear. You put it on trial, and you deconstruct it. And I'll ask things like, if you do this and you fail, are you going to be homeless? And they'll laugh and say no. If you do this and you fail, will you starve? No. If you do this based on the plan we've discussed, are you going to ruin yourself financially for the rest of your life? The answer is no. And so what happens is you deconstruct the fear. And one of the things you do is you think of the absolute worst possible scenario. And that's what I've done with callers when I go through those three things. I'm throwing the worst possible scenario at them, and they go, oh, that's not even possible. So now all of a sudden it makes fear look silly, and we've peppered fear on the witness stand, and we've proven that fear is lying to us. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I've done is, after I deconstruct fear and put it on the witness stand and say, fear, you're a liar, then that now means I can focus on the truth. And the truth is that I have much to be hopeful for. I should be hopeful. There is a desired future that is out there at the end of my determination. And I think of Maya Angelou's words, one of the great poets of all time. What a gift this lady was to our world. And Maya Angelou once said in the poem, I know why the caged bird sings. She wrote, hoping for the best, prepared for the worst, and unsurprised by anything in between. Joe, I just got this warm feeling all over me. I don't know if you experienced it. Probably not. It is cold there in the control room. But that is a beautiful thing. Hoping for the best. Eyes on the prize. Knowing I've got a pretty darn good plan. And that destruction, if failure happens, is not on the other end of failure. Knowledge, experience is on the other end of failure. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. I see a better future. And so I'm prepared for the worst, but expecting the best. And anything that happens, well, it's really not a surprise. And it's certainly not devastating. So I hope that encourages you today, those of you who are worried about the sting of rejection, the sting of disappointment. It turns out it's not that bad. 844-747-2577 is the number. 844-747-2577. Let's go to Jeremy in Cincinnati, Ohio. Jeremy, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hi, Mr. Ken. How are you?
Jeremy, I'm living the dream. What's going on?
So I'll be short and to the point. I work for my dad in his small business, and needless to say, I hate my job. I love my dad. There's no problems between me and him at all. But I hate my job. I get depressed when I think about having to go into work the next day.
Wow.
And I don't know what to do. Going back to school really isn't an option. I've got a 18-month-old daughter at home and another baby on the way. And I've listened to your show. I don't know what my passions are. I don't know really what direction to take.
How old are you, Jeremy?
I'm 26.
All right, 26. And how long have you worked for your dad? Pretty much right out of high school or college?
I went to a ministry school, Bible ministry school for 4 years, and then as soon as I got out, I started working for him. So about 4 years now.
Okay, and why did you go to seminary or Bible college?
I am a preacher. I feel feel that need, to preach the gospel and share the word.
Why aren't you preaching?
I do. I feel like one day I will pastor. That timing's not up to me.
Wait. You're right. You are theologically correct. I'm glad you said it that way, but I think you're making that an excuse. So how can you tell me you don't know what your passions are? And this is assuming you know how I define passion. I define passion in the construct of this conversation and this show as work that we are willing to suffer for. That's the Latin. The Latin for passion essentially means to suffer, meaning we'll do the work whether we're getting paid. We'll do the work whether people notice us. We just love the work. Like, I love broadcasting. I love coaching people. I love it. I'm going to be real honest with you right now. I have a splitting headache. I took a leave about an hour ago. It's not helping. I don't feel so hot right now. I didn't feel hot when I walked in. My head's rocking right now. But can I tell you, my heart's rocking too. I'm so alive right now, Jeremy. You'd have to drag me out of the studio. That's passion. Now, how can you tell me that you feel called to preach and you tell me you don't know what you're passionate about? What's going on?
I guess I just mean more on the secular side,
Hold on a second. Hold on. Why are we having this conversation, Jeremy? I'm a pastor's son, so I'm going to come at you a little bit more intense than I do most callers, because you and I grew up in the same world, and I don't believe if you've been called to preach that you should be doing anything but that. So you should be serving on a church staff full time. You can't say, well, Ken, I know I'm supposed to preach one day, but the timing's not up to me. Well, you're working for your dad in a family business instead of being in ministry right now. Allowing God to open doors for you and you getting the training that you need, the experience you need, making the connections you need in full-time ministry. What am I missing? And if I'm wrong, that's fine, but I don't know how I could possibly be wrong when a 26-year-old who's felt the call to preach is not in full-time ministry. Tell me what's going on.
I'm really not sure how to explain that part of it. When I'm called to a church, to come by and preach, I will. A lot of churches that I am associated with are smaller churches, so they don't have, the full staff and to be able for me to work there full time. And
okay,
and,
all right, hold on a second.
Like that. So that's
okay. I get it. Are you called to preach or not?
Yes, sir.
Are you called to be a full-time pastor, or do you feel like you're more to the evangelist type fill-in role, which is what you're doing?
I believe eventually full-time pastor.
Who's up to what's your role in the eventually versus God's role?
Obedience, really.
Mm-hmm. Can I tell you that I don't think you're being obedient?
Yes, sir.
I don't think you are. I didn't say I know. I'm stopping short of saying I know. But there is no reason that you've given me yet. Here's the moment for you to tell me I'm wrong. Because I do not mind being wrong. Because I'm actually pushing you. I'm pushing you to do what you were created to do. And if I make you uncomfortable, fine. There's no reason that you have given me yet that says you should not be on a larger church staff because you've got the seminary or the Bible college degree or whatever it is. You need to be serving full-time in a ministry, a parachurch or a church ministry. But if you feel the call to be a full-time pastor, you're going to look up from now and you're going to be 32 and you're going to be making the same excuses you're making now. And your excuse is, well, I got to take care of my wife and family, and that's a lie from the pit of hell that you can't do that in ministry because I know better. You know better. And then the other issue is, well, Ken, I'm preaching for small churches right now, so they can't put me on staff, so I'm just going to keep serving the Lord and just telling him I'm available and wait for somebody to call me one day out of nowhere and tell me that God revealed to them that I'm supposed to be their senior pastor. That's what it sounds like to me. Does it sound like that to you?
When you put it like that, yeah.
But that's what's happening, yes, brother. You hate your job. I think this is your Jonah moment. I think you're ignoring Nineveh. And I think you need to go back and reread that and write a sermon and preach it to yourself. I think it's time for you to, at 26, to get on a church staff that's big enough that you can get in and they take care of you. How much money are you making right now for your dad?
I right at 40.
Yeah, you can make $40,000 anywhere in the nation. You just got to get in and hustle. It's time for you and the wife to get on full-time staff. If you got to start as a youth pastor, that's fine, but you need to be preaching and learning how to lead a church. And you're not going to learn how to be a senior pastor. You're not going to get better at preaching and ministering, working a day job, just waiting for somebody to tap you on the shoulder. I'm going to close our conversation with this because you know what you need to do. But the Bible says in Hebrews, without faith, it is, I want you to finish the sentence.
Impossible to please God.
Yeah, it's time for you to step out, bro. And you know it and I know it. And I'm not knocking you by saying you're in sin. I'm saying that you are not being obedient because you are being called. And in fact, well, I'm not ready to let you go yet because now I'm preaching to the preacher. What is the voice and what is the response of Samuel in the Old Testament when he's he's awakened in the middle of the night? What does he say after he realizes it's not the high priest that he's living with? What does he say to the Lord's voice?
Your servant heareth.
Yeah.
Or your servant's listening.
Yeah. And I think it's time for you to revisit that story as well. Go, Jeremy. You got this, man. Start making moves now. And you tell your dad, I've been ignoring the call, and now I'm going to start to make the journey to full-time ministry, which is what you were created to do. And if you don't do it, you are not in obedience. You might as well be Jonah, and I don't want you to end up in the belly of a whale. By the way, all these people that don't go to church right now are going, what in the world is he talking about? Well, you can go examine it yourself. Whether you believe it or not, it sure is a great story. And there's some stuff to learn. Isn't that right, Joe?
Yes.
Joe, tell everybody what happens when you know what you're supposed to do and you don't do it. And you make excuses. What happens?
You start getting twisted inside.
That's a great answer, Joe. Well done.
Thank you.
It'll twist you up like a pretzel. And the only thing that'll undo it is retreating to clarity and doing what you were created to do. I'm fired up today. Here we go. Seattle, Washington next. Amber's on the line. Amber, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hi, Ken. Thank you so much for taking my call.
You bet. Well, you bet. How can I help?
My question is, I am at a crossroads right now. I have worked about 13 years for a family-owned company, and in probably the last 2 years, even before COVID hit, I felt it on my heart that it just wasn't the role for me anymore. More so, I think there's been some major toxicity. That being said, a small part of my background is I am 34 years old, and I have two very young children, and I bring the financial dollar amount to our household. I am happily married, but I'm scared to make a career change because I have so much riding on it. And also, I know that I'm really shifting on what I want to do, and I have an opportunity right now that I'm exploring, but I'm trying to find out if it's my head or my heart that wants it.
Oh, what's the opportunity? Describe it.
It would be with a national organization, and it would be becoming a financial advisor.
Great. And how much do you make now financially?
Around $60,000.
And how much would you make if you took this position?
They said if someone is to be successful in the role, they estimate 60 to 80 starting out.
Okay, so looks like it's dollar for dollar. You're not going backwards, even at the low range of what they gave you, correct?
Yes. Yes. The other factor I forgot to state is it's also completely commission-based.
So they don't give you any kind of guarantee your first year?
Not the first year, but they will within the first, I have to double check. I think it's 8 weeks.
Okay.
And they do have a really good program.
Yeah. So they got a great track record.
Yes, absolutely.
And you've talked to them about, hey, what does a person who doesn't make it in the first 8 weeks do wrong? You asked that question?
Yes.
And? So once you look at that, you go, is there any chance you're going to do those things?
No.
So in 8 weeks, there's a good chance that you're going to already be where you need to be financially.
Yes.
Okay. How soon would you have to say yes to this offer?
It is a process now of getting some licensing first, and sort of in between.
How long? So it's a standing offer once you get the licensing.
It is a standing offer. Probably through spring would be when I'm officially contracted in.
Perfect. How many months? So we're talking about what? 4 to 5, 6 months?
Overall 6 to complete the training, but I could start sooner. They have 2 paths set up.
Would you be working in your current job that entire time, right up until the moment that you left?
That's the part I'm struggling because in my heart, no.
No, I didn't ask you in your heart. I'm saying,
okay,
would you be able to do it?
And in my head, no, because my second job is my family, and I guess my fear is that I'm not going to get to see my kids.
Okay, I get it. But you understand this is all coming down to financial question right now. In my mind, you really don't have anything to be fearful of. You've just got to come up with a plan that allows you to transition. So it's essentially, we got to build a financial bridge. Yep. So you make 60. How much does your husband make?
40.
Okay. Could he make some more money by doing some side jobs and delivering pizzas and things like that?
I don't know.
Why? Why do you not know that? That seems like a straightforward question to me.
I guess it would be more the balancing the time if I'm committed to more time.
Yes, but I'm talking about in the interim.
Our children.
I'm sorry. That's fair. Let me restate this. How long before you would start this training, the certification?
The licensing, I would probably start, I guess, in about a month.
Yeah,
but
I'm just saying,
what if he out documents?
All right, but what if he busted it for a month? What if he delivered pizzas and made $1,000 a week, and he did some other things? What if you guys buckled down and you got friends and family in the area?
Not too much, unfortunately.
Okay. But your kids aren't going to go, where's mom and dad? We're talking about a short amount of time. Here's where I'm taking you.
Yep.
Let's just say that you guys went crazy and your husband went crazy as far as working, and you guys came up with another 2 months of expenses of your salary. Okay. So your base gross is $5,000 roughly, right?
So just to give you a little bit more, I actually do have a lump sum of money saved that I was planning to pay off a vehicle, but I'm holding it instead to
How
be
much?
safe. I think $11,000.
Okay, great. I wish I'd have known that 5 minutes ago. Here's what I'm trying. No. I don't mean it like you didn't tell me. I'm just saying you guys have just got to sit down and go, what can we do financially that if you take this new job, that you've got some extra than beyond the 8 weeks? So let's say that you've got 12 weeks or 16 weeks worth of your monthly salary. That just gives you extra cushion to crush it. Bet on yourself. Do it. But come up with the financial bridge, and you guys can do it. Even if you've got to work in your day job right now an extra month to just make up more money. Because I'd like for you to pay the car off too. Because all of this is going to make life easier, right?
Yep.
So I guess I've taken a little bit extra time with you, Amber, because I want you to psychologically get to the point to realize you guys can do this, can't you?
We can. I think
your kids are not going to suffer,
yep.
Amber. You're a great mom. We're talking about maybe a couple of months of 50-hour weeks at most to give you the peace of mind Are you kidding me? Amber, what should you do?
Take the job.
Yeah. Did I hear some emotion there? Huh?
Yep.
Yeah. Why are you crying? Tell us.
I just tried for a long time to have kids, and I think I just went in fear of that.
Yeah, but guess what? How old are your kids?
7 months and 2 years old now.
They don't even know how many hours are in a day. All they know is that mama takes care of them. Your 7-month-old doesn't know anything, but it does know when mama's heart returns every day. And so if you got to miss a couple of tuck-ins and a couple baths, that's fine. They're not going to be scarred. You hear me?
Yep.
But you know their future's going to be better when mama's not miserable in a toxic environment. How much better of a mom do you think you're going to be now that you're not going to be in a toxic environment?
Much better.
Oh, I want you to hold this emotion, Amber. You're a great mom. And those kiddos are going to have a better future because mom's healthy and mom's making more money. That's what I want you to grab. Do you hear me?
Yes.
All right, Amber, let's go.
Sorry.
Those are happy tears, aren't they?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we like all kinds of tears on this show, whether they're happy or sad, because it is when we embrace those emotions and we allow ourselves to feel, we allow our heart to speak to us. And folks, listen to me. When we cry, when we experience emotion, it is our heart talking directly to us. It's going, listen to me. Oh, embrace it, folks. I know emotions can be tough, and nobody likes to ugly cry and snot all over everything. But boy, oh boy, when we hear our heart, good things happen. All right, let's go to the chat room. Here we go. And coming up, I've got a special message to those of you who are our veterans on this Veterans Day. All right, let's go here. We got just another account. That's the username. Do you have any advice on becoming an author? How should I start? How would you get published? Oh, I love this question. Here we go. Here's my advice. Write what moves you. So if fiction moves you, spy thrillers move you, it gets you excited, it's what you love to consume, write that. If you want to write personal growth content because it moves your heart, write that. If you want to write what moves you. Here's why. It will engage your heart and that desire to share words that connect with other people who are like-minded and like-hearted. This world is full of people. My show is not for everybody. Doesn't bother me. It either you get it or you don't. You either receive what I'm cooking or you don't. And it doesn't bother me if you don't like what I'm cooking. It just doesn't. Why? Because I'm sharing what moves my heart. I long to make a difference in this world through my work. And so I want other people to have that same desire, and I want them to have the same result. So start writing right now. Once you identify that moves your heart, start writing. And don't hold it in, share it. Share it on Facebook. Share it in audio form on a podcast. Share it on YouTube. Share what you care about and start writing. Don't even think about getting published yet. Build an audience to see if people are consuming what you like. Get some training. Take some classes. Learn how to write well. Only then do you start thinking about publishing. But you must write first. Find your voice. Improve your voice. Then we think about amplifying the voice. That would be the order. 844-747-2577. Hey, Joe, write that down for me, would you please? That's some good teaching that I want to return to. So there's just a little production note for anybody who wants to learn how to be a professional writer. First thing they need to do is figure out what moves their heart. That's their voice. Then they need to get some training on their writing. So that's smoothing, improving the voice. And then the last piece is, then you worry about amplifying the voice. That's really good. I want to write that down. Sometimes I got to capture stuff so I can share it later. All right, let's go to Jorge. Lopez, which books are you currently reading or do you recommend? The Motive by Pat Lencioni is on my list. Any other recommendations? I love The Motive by Pat. I love everything that Pat does. Books that I'm currently reading. My goodness. So I do a deal where I read multiple books at once. And so now I'm rereading Tim Keller's book, Every Good Endeavor. That's the one that's directly in front of me. And then I am also reading about Thomas Paine, who wrote Common Sense, one of the first voices in America. And so I've got a little historical context. Those are the two that I'm reading. As far as other books that I'd recommend, I need to know what area of your life you most want to improve in. I always like to start there. So you can start thinking about your relational bucket, your professional bucket, and you can think, well, maybe my health. So start to look at the major areas of your life. Where do you want to grow the most? Where do you want to get better the most? I'd start reading on that highest priority, and then I'd go down the list. That's always my recommended reading list for anybody. 844-747-2577. All right, today is Veterans Day, and so as I do every time that we get a veteran that calls the program, I thank them for their service and say, you're a great American. So if you're watching the program live or you're going to watch it later, for those of you that have served our country, and because our show's a global show, if you've served your country, even though this is a U.S. holiday, for any of you who have served your country anywhere in the globe, I want to say thank you for how you have selflessly put yourself in a potential spot of danger, or you have had to face danger and even losing your life to protect your countrymen. That is the worthiest of causes, and I applaud you and I thank you. You are a great American, or you are a great citizen of your great country. But I want to speak to veterans from all around the globe, and because there really is a global message, not just an American message. We get a lot of calls from veterans who say, Ken, I'm getting out in 2 years or 3 years, or I'm getting out in a year, 5 years, whatever it is, and I'm concerned that I'm going to be able to move from military life to civilian life. And I want to speak to those folks. So if you've got a family member who's in the military and they're concerned about this, will you take them to today's episode, rewind it to this point, or fast forward to this point rather, and let them hear this? Because here's what I want you to hear. If you are a veteran and or you are current military and you're getting ready to get out, or you recently got out and you're struggling to find the place in the marketplace that's your sweet spot, start with this. Your service, your experience, the work you did in our military is tremendously credible and very transferable to the marketplace. It's one of the greatest organizations in the world, our American military. It just is. So I want you to think about your military sweet spot. And then we'll combine it with the Ken Coleman application of what I call the sweet spot, the intersection of your talent, passion, and mission. So what were you really good at? What are you good at in the military? What are your talents? In your military job and career, just think that alone. What do you do best? Now, what kind of work do you love? What task, what role, what function have you performed or are you performing in the military that you really love? High emotion when you think about it, and high devotion. You just, time flies. You don't want to stop it. And then finally, what are the results of your work that matter deeply to you or did matter deeply to you in the military? Because here's what happens. You start thinking like that the military experience is so different than the private sector, and it's not in the sense of the work. Now, the environment is different, yes. The way you execute on it is different, I get it, but the work itself is not. And so when you figure out, okay, that, and you go, okay, well, where can I do that? And so I've talked to military men and women before that were, I'll just use this as an example, strong in logistics. So let's look at this. Talent. They're very talented at details. Talented at organization. Talented at being analytical. Talented at execution, just getting things done. Okay. So where are all the places that those talents alone are in high demand? All over the place. But let's look at passion. Well, they love finishing. They love execution. So we've got a direct tie there. They got the talent of execution. They love doing the work of finishing. They just want to get stuff done. They love problem solving. They love order, efficiency. So you start to work through all this and you begin to see, oh, well, I could move over here into logistics. I could move over here into purchasing. I could move over here into process improvement. I could move over here into organizational health. I could move it. The list goes on and on and on. And you've got this credible resume from the military. So pause on that part of it. And then, okay, what's the next thing you need to be thinking about? You need to be thinking about how many people you know. Get my book, The Proximity Principle, which will teach you how to get where you want to go. It's all about the right people in the right places. I write about 5 people in 5 places that if you put yourself around and in opportunities, going to come knocking on your door before you ever leave the military. So you've got to break this thing down. That first approach is, yes, I have all kinds of transferable experience, and yes, I know plenty of people. I've traveled the world. I've traveled the U.S. I know people everywhere. And so you begin to let people know, I'm getting out in 2 years. I'm getting out in 3 years. And here's what the kind of work I want to do. And you've got lead time. I think for many of you in the service who are thinking about getting out, I think you've got an advantage over other people because you're serving the military and you've got time to plan your exit. And then the third piece is call me. I'm right here Monday through Friday. 844-747-2577. Let's talk through it. In about 5 or 6 minutes, trust me, we're going to have multiple things that we can see in the marketplace that would allow you to move from the military and move right into your sweet spot in the private sector. I guarantee it. 844-747-2577. Final word, Joe, to our veterans. Despite what's happening in our country right now with tremendous divisiveness and controversy and ugliness, I believe that we still live in the greatest nation in the world, primarily because of our freedoms. And our freedoms come because of your willingness to serve, your unselfish devotion to the ideals of liberty and what it means. And so to you, I say again, thank you for making the ultimate sacrifice to serve our country and our freedoms. You make us a great nation. Thank you. My time is almost up. But before I let you go, I want you to know that you matter and you do have what it takes. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, this is the Ken Coleman Show. Press on.